You trust quick gut feelings because they save time, but that speed quietly costs you money, health, and sometimes relationships. The core move here is simple. Most mistakes come from two very different ways your mind runs, one fast and one slow. This idea helps anyone who makes choices every day, from people managing money to parents juggling schedules. Let's start by meeting those two inner systems. One part of your mind jumps to answers without asking questions. The other part forces you to slow down and think. Picture slamming the brakes when a kid chases a ball into the street. That snap decision is the fast side, and then sitting down to balance a budget is the slow side. Daniel Kahneman's thinking, fast and slow, gives names to those parts. System 1 and System 2. System 1 is automatic, making impressions and feelings without effort. System 2 takes over when attention, calculation, or self-control are needed. That simple split shapes how you act under stress or when you're tired. And it's what the book means by two systems doing very different jobs. That effortless snap judgment is useful, but it also sets up the specific mistakes we'll talk about next. To handle complexity, your brain uses shortcuts that save time, but steer you wrong in predictable ways. One is the availability shortcut. You judge how likely things are by how easily you can call examples to mind. So scary news stories make risks feel bigger than they are. The other is representativeness. You match things to a stereotype and ignore how common the real base rate is, so you end up overreacting to surface matches. The book frames these as heuristics that lead to biases, and that framing helps you see mistakes as regular, not personal failures. If you take this seriously, you stop treating every gut error like a moral lapse and start fixing the situations that cause them. For example, checking real stats before you panic about headlines. People don't judge final wealth. They judge changes from a point they call here and now, and that flips risk-taking in weird ways. Prospect theory says choices depend on gains and losses relative to a reference point. And the surprising part is loss aversion. Losses hurt more than equal gains feel good. So you avoid a sure small loss, but might gamble when trying to escape a larger loss. Behavior the book shows again and again. This framing idea explains why the same person is careful in one situation and reckless in another, simply because the reference point moved. And those weird preferences about gains and losses explain why experts still mess up plans and predictions. Confidence often outruns knowledge. People, even experts, tend to be too sure about how much they know and how well they can predict the future. The planning fallacy is a classic. You underestimate how long projects take and how much they'll cost, even with past evidence that you always miss deadlines. Intuition can work, but only when the environment is stable and feedback is clear. Otherwise, your gut is just guessing. The book points out these limits to show that expertise isn't magic. It's pattern recognition that needs reliable practice and quick feedback to be trusted. Treat forecasts with humility and build in ways to test them, because overconfidence hides uncertainty and ruins plans. Small changes in how choices are framed, what numbers you anchor on, or how options are presented can nudge behavior more than arguments about values. That's why architects of choice care about default settings and what people see first. Tiny context changes shift decisions. The book also draws a useful line between the experiencing self, which lives moments, and the remembering self, which tells the story and makes future choices based on that story. Framing doesn't just change what you pick now, it shapes the memories you keep and the plans you make later. This is what the book means by decision architecture and the two selves. Context and memory matter as much as preferences. Recognizing that helps you design small habits and environments that reduce mistakes and increase satisfaction. Where this framework can fail is when people weaponize nudges or treat the model as a trick to fix character instead of a tool for design. It can be misused by simplifying complex social problems into choice tweaks. What feels most solid is this. The mind uses fast shortcuts and slow checks, and noticing that gives you practical steps. Slow down when stakes are real, check base rates, and be suspicious of confident forecasts. Which small habit will you pick to start noticing those shortcuts in your own decisions?